Unnusakkutungo sugitsi galata kutsaalermatillugu Eva Michael Junga. Tana la tijimmarigayau yibaafanlaankunnu nuqqarsimalertumaan natsautigi atuq lertuni Brian Penny sivilertiuqartarsimayu yaarniartuleriji kampaningannik 2016 minik taakuaulatsivattu nunavummi nuluya uyaarniarpinganni pivalliajuleriji nuttuserigatsiliangusimayu tabbani pinasuarusittinni uqartu Penny taana nuqqa tuteqaluanguartoq ilaminnik piqateqakkanna saugumalluni kanata ukanat narpasiani aulatsijimmarigayau baafanlaankut pigiaquttigisimayangi company nunavut Iron Ore Incorporated taana inangiiniartu Penny iqqinayaaqilortaminnik taana tau inukkigartuiyivattu ammalu natsi siuqartanermu hojjigiartuuyuq kayungersiayiugalu kikkituinerni ilagayauquyilluni qimiqquyauneriyanga qimiqquyautillugu tariu akiani natsilerinermun niuqqutaqarattarniuyuq nuqqangatitaun ninganut Are you Peter taana kiggartuivattuq uqautigiartiuvattuni tamatiminga nuqqartitausimayu mitsaanun aqqaagunu amisunun
Seungommata anguna suktiinunalinni tainna kiinnaujakasattualuutillugu atsoruukkannertualuulilorsimammata nunaliit anguna suktiillu tukisijaugiali tamanna
Pitauqartuni taana pimmeriugiangani asevertiit atorunna reaqaqaluangada natsaminermi amiqqartauvallumni nunalimmiutanun tariuakiani taakua commission giyauyuit tusarumammata kikkutuinarning tamatuma nuqqartitausimaneriangani quutiqaqartarnimun natsiqiannik ammal tauvani tariuakiani tamanna aaqqitausimalluni taimangani 2009 ammalu attorniqallaqitsimalluni nunavummi tamakkua ilagiyau tutaungittuugula tappaaguloortillugit killiqartitauluni tusarpit qarumayuit August 7 munut kinatuinaq taanna isimagayamini qaqitauyakkutigu titaqarunartut tamatama tariuakiani qawisartiit ikka qian kisingunna website ngagut inuitaako uvikkeit kanatamingaartu ikangerlinermiitu tabani pinasari seriatinni 2024 ngutillugu kanatami inuit makkutu ikkatimanaqarngata taakkuangalai inuit uqauseqartaneartuit inuit uqausinganni ileqqusillerinermullu ammalu isimalerinermun ilinniartitaunniarillutik ajorunniirsanermik ileqquseqatigiingittuit katingani sau gunnaqhullugit ammalu sivulliujaujarialiu qausiulutik kanatalimaami inuit uvikkai katimayiginnut nunavimmi taana katimayuqatau yuq Susie Ann Cadillac kangersermiutaq taanangiyoqqaaqayauyu katimayinnut
Auvikkaujuniinnuujunit ilaugiatsiahattaritsi nipihatsialusillu kinguvaangugatta pimmariummat tigumiartavut ammalu nipihatsiahattalutai nuhatigitsialutalu ilaupaliahattata alianaqmat
taakua kanatalimaami uvikkeit makkuttui katamanerianga pigialortu July 29 ngutillugu ammalu inuit makkuttuutiyu katimaniartu tallammeriguasuarningani teikani singiittoq pinguarpingani taima taana pingayugilertangulu kingulerpaangalu apersornerilaartannik Larry Shamik taana uqauseqalaungan innammeri nerititauneri hattartangni kuutsuarmi nunavimmi taqqitama aula tauvattuni katittavimmi tautukainerlavun Larry qanerleisumavit qaluippigiviut inutuqait pijariaqallarittarianginni nunatsinni
takwa kanok nonalilimavut nonavuk miu ngokaloarune nonavip miu ngokaloarune illuta huminakto takwa inuto hai katigiartorunalaaqmatta tiito hattalutilo panaktita ta hattatillo ukiu hatimini kanu ilahaqsutilo katingasiarunnattuit takwa katitoarmata amisuni auliyissuut unika ratsai tatsamanin taulorsimayuni takwa naalaktau huminaqto asiulortinagu takwa naalarialivut nipiliurialivut asiullarilortinagu iqqaumayamini ilniarutigillugu sivunivunni ammalo takwa inustui naalarunnaniarmata hanno hatserukku hattativiniummangata tamanna hauyimayaul niluatsiato yoriyarali la ilangi tupikmi iglumi inuusimatsutillu piruqsimatsutillu auliinginnatui ilangit ullumimo
tamanna nipiliortauriaqarnerianga uqauserillugu pimmariullunilu qanu kamagi gasualangaviu tamanna pigiartipallialugu
tana tamani nunavimmi avata tana taiyausu immiguqtuit nunavimmi William Taguna angiuqqaanguqquutuq qataalortuaqqaaniuqquutuq tamatsaminga uqalamahatigigiahalaaqtaqa tana kayusi hattatuugalua ukiuttamaaqquutuq takwa intohai nipiliuqtau hattasuti tamanna iqqai hattasutillu unika hattasutillu nipiliuqtau hattatuugalua kisiani akunigulu tamanna tusaumaqunnaitaqa nipiliuqtaunikkun tana kayusigiali
ammalo qanu kiinauininnuatsigasuarpappit tamanna aulatsianginnarunaqullugu
takwa tamane nunami tigumiartikut our local land holding Kujamiut Makavik Corporation Kadavik Regional Government takwa timiuyuluka nunavimmittuit allahattasungalo ukunanga pigiaqumavunga allasiahattasugit imailluattuni kiinauinni atulangqoorama taima takwa kiinauye angiqtau tuarama asuila kayusti laaqmisugu taina pigumayavunni taima manna tana ippasauloqtu kiinauinni ameeqqu haloorama taga takwa utiqtilaangitakka ima sitamanni kiatsautini niuviriaqqunga aqqaani sitamanni tupiqni niuvilaujugama taima takwa namukia isivigiaqtulaaqtuit inutohaqnu patoqtaunalaaqtuit paungataqumayunu taimagala ikayornatooruttivun
Nga, pinnakomi Larry. Taana ikeaqqavikkutiiguttusarsuagunnartuilunnani appersernerilaartanni Larry Shaming cbc.ca/north iqaluttuutiarmi paliisikku nuatsalortuit $1,300 nikiinauini nunasiutinni waasaqartartutik atortauniartuit nunalmiutanum hanuiqtuuqutitsanut paliisikkut haamlakkullu taakua aaqqitsiuqattaniarmijuit tamakkuninga katingatitseqartarlutik seraartitsiqattarnerianginni nuatsivalliatillugit niqini nuatsivitsanut angiyoqqaaqayau Sergeant Shane Walker angiyoqqaaqayau iqaluttuutiarmi paliisikkunnun uqartuni tamanna kayusinitseqatsialoortoq
We invited anybody and everybody.
Kikkutuinneittungasuktu paliisikkusaneanu nunakkuuruti ingeqqatsuti kisutuinneillu uasarunnartavu piaksattiavaalugiaariara paliisikkunnu eqqanayiartulimaa ikajortigiittuti nunakkuurutini uasailaumata kiinaujani katersuinasuktuti.
Taako ilagajaujuit Redfish Art Studio akillersortaugatit ikajohattartuit nunasiutini uasa qattatillegit Mark Slater taanna au tukumuortitsijimmaqigajaujorp uqartuni taanna ikajannaqallarilauttuq nunalimmiutanut.
They're amazing people.
Inuttiavaalummata paliisikku qautamaattia ikajorpammata qoyagillutigu kisutuinnattiani ikajorasulaortavu.
Sergeant Walker uqartuni parnasimagillutik uatiarukkanni nunasiutini uasaiqattarlutti kiinauini nuatsigasuartillugit aujauningani. Taimullumi sila uqanuinneqiyangatakuttaulaunginningani Rosa nerlungajuk aulatitsigundalartuq unnuk atsilertaminiminnik tauvani kuugaartiu qanigiyangani nakormi aulatitsigundalaruvit atsequteqarneruvit takutsauqiyarni aulatiitsivitsaavattugut tuqaarutinga cbcnorth@cbc.ca sila uqanuinneqinaartanga maanna naamatsigujaukainermimmat. Igalaaq nuqqat vitagatakittarerirugu iqqaititsigumagvugut takutsauunnertu Igalaaq CBC kutigut CBC North Igalaaq cbc.ca/north CBC Gem ammalu YouTube kut nakormiitauttoqataartusi uvanga Eva Michael inunnasiunnuqatsianeqqusi.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes your world.
All right.
Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We are just approaching Gaza.
With local CBC Radio 1 Live to connect us closer to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want, where you want. On the CBC News app. Download for free.
And he can lift anything. Anything at all. He's that strong.
Joe Schuster, will you stop it or you'll miss your train? Now help me find number 5.
Strong, but by day he's a mild-mannered reporter. Glasses, a secret identity.
Honestly, you Canadian kids.
He'd be in this cape.
A what?
A cape. Wearing these blue tights.
A hero in tights, really. Here it is.
Listen, Lois, this guy is faster than anything, I swear.
If you're not fast, you're gonna miss your train.
That's it. A bullet. A bullet. He's faster. No, he's faster than a speeding bullet.
Come on, get on it. No one's gonna read a comic strip about a strong man in tights, Joe. It'll never fly.
Fly, no. But he can leap over tall buildings. Oh, wow, yeah.
See what your cousin Frank says in Toronto.
Wait, Lois. I've got something for you. Here, take it. It's a gift. You never know. It might be worth something someday. Is he great or what? Bye-bye, Lois.
Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in the Northwest Territories, where the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation has won its lawsuit against a former CEO. The NWT Supreme Court has found that Ron Barlas acted in an extreme and egregious manner. As a result of the decision, he's been permanently removed from his role. It is a bizarre case involving luxurious lifestyles and millions of dollars. The CBC's Luke Carroll read through the decision, and he joins me now with more. So Luke, tell me about this decision.
So first of all, it basically determined that there was no need for a trial here, that there was enough evidence that Barlas to determine that Barlas had defrauded the economic arm of the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation. So this was based on evidence that was available. There was boxes of documents at the courthouse. So Justice Karen Chainer found that there was no doubt that he had exploited the First Nations companies for his and his family's gain. So in a nutshell, the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation was arguing that Barlas had defrauded the company in a number of ways. This included not disclosing important information and conflicts of interest. Some of those conflicts included contracts with companies owned by his wife, contracts the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation had with companies his wife owned. So this resulted in serious financial gain for their entire family. But Justice Shainer's findings also determined that even if Barlas had properly disclosed this information, the agreement and the transactions are, quote, clearly not reasonable, fair, or in the best interest of LKDFN companies, end quote. So Barlas also changed the company's bylaws and conflict of interest rules and the board of directive policies, which gave him more control. So Barlas's response in this lawsuit was essentially that it was all above board because he got approval from the director of the companies. But Justice Shainer found that this wasn't adequate. She said that the director did not always understand what it was that he was signing.
Okay, so you mentioned that the decision talks about how Barlas and his family benefited from these actions. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so it found that they were living a very luxurious lifestyle as a result of these actions. So this includes corporate credit card charges for food, for tuition, travel, jewelry, even plastic surgery. So money went towards lease payments on a condo in downtown Vancouver. It also covered all the living expenses for his adult children. There was a gaming room for Barlas's adult son. There were multiple properties, which included a gym, a games room, and even a bar, Megan.
Okay, so you definitely mentioned the family there. This wasn't the only decision released. Barlas isn't the only one involved in the lawsuit. So can you tell us about the people and the companies accused of helping Barlas?
For sure. So the first one would be Barlas's wife, Ziba Barlas. So she ran several companies that were involved with the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation, and Justice Shainer found she had knowingly assisted and benefited from her husband's transactions. A second decision was released that basically gave the Lutzelk'e Dene First Nation the green light to begin legal proceedings against two companies. So one of them is KPMG, who's accused of issuing misleading financial statements on behalf of Barlas. And then there's the law firm of Reynolds, Mirth, Richards, and Farmer, which is accused of giving legal advice on transactions that Barlas used to defraud the First Nations companies. So I reached out to Barlas, KPMG, and the law firm. KPMG and Reynolds, Mirth, Richards, and Farmer deny any wrongdoing, and Barlas didn't respond to my request by deadline. So in the end, Megan, Justice Shainer says the only thing that's really left to determine here is how much money Barlas owes the First Nation.
Okay, that's quite a case, Luke. Thanks so much for bringing us up to date.
Thanks for having me.
Yukon's premier delivered a sharp rebuke of Victoria Gold yesterday. Speaking at the Council of Yukon First Nations General Assembly, Ranj Pillay suggested the company has joined a list of bad corporate actors that have exploited the territory. Last month's heap leach failure led to a large spill of cyanide solution into the groundwater. Pillay compared it to heavily contaminated sites like the abandoned Faro mine.
The mining sector has had its fair share of bad actors, unfair practices, and the inherent desire driven by the greed of corporate executives and shareholders to cut corners, shirk responsibilities, and break the law. I'm not going to stand before you and paint a rosy picture of mining, and we must do better. I will not do so when we see corporations cut their losses and run at the suggestion of financial loss. Not when our people are facing the loss of the safe use of their lands. Not when we are left with a giant mess to clean up.
The Yukon government has issued several work orders to the company. Those include building berms to stabilize the site and more water storage. Police says there's, quote, been an absence of action from the company on those orders. Meanwhile, Victoria Gold's CEO and president says the company is not planning on leaving its mine in central Yukon. John McConnell spoke to media yesterday. These are his first public comments since an engineering failure at the Eagle gold mine last month. When the heap leach pad failed on June 24th, raw ore and cyanide slid out of the facility, causing major concerns for the surrounding environment and halting regular gold production. McConnell says the company is currently focused on treating contaminated water at the site. He says there's been positive steps, but Victoria Gold is not out of the woods yet.
To your question, people don't feel we're doing enough. We're doing everything humanly possible to prevent this from becoming a major environmental disaster.
Victoria Gold has also hired 3 experts to investigate what caused the heap leach failure. McConnell says the company will make their findings public. As for Victoria Gold's financial situation, McConnell says it's good for the next 4 to 6 months, after which it'll look at financing. He says the company plans to resume gold production after the site is stabilized and cleaned up, but there's no timeline for that yet. The Eagle gold mine is the largest gold mine in the Yukon's history. In Nunavut, the CEO of Baffinland Iron Mines has resigned, effective immediately. Brian Penny has been the head of the mining company since 2016. It operates Nunavut's Mary River Mine. The company says Penny is stepping down to spend more time with his family on the East Coast. The CEO of Baffinland's parent company, Nunavut Iron Ore Incorporated, will take over Penny's responsibilities. Yellowknife City Council is considering regulating rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft. It's looking at amending the taxi bylaw. Last week, Council discussed if Yellowknife should prepare for rideshares. Rowan Fleury has more.
Some Yellowknife residents like the possibility of bringing rideshare services to the capital city.
I think it would be very convenient and also safe. I love how those rideshare programs give riders an opportunity to rate their drivers and also to track, like GPS, where the vehicle is going.
I think more options are better for the consumer, right? So if it's competitive and there's enough demand, then I think it's a good idea.
But not everyone is on board with the idea.
For me as a taxi drivers, on my view, there is no positive at all.
City staff say so far no one has approached them about operating rideshares in the city. They say adding those services to the bylaw would take a lot more research and many more months. But some councillors feel the city should be ready in case there is interest.
DoorDash came in pretty quick and nobody expected that. Airbnb came in with a vengeance, these are all things that, I think we need to be up on.
At the city council meeting next month, they will talk about the proposed amendments to the taxi bylaw. That could see an increase in meter fees, adding mandatory security cameras in cabs, and allow drivers to request a deposit before a trip starts. That meeting is set to be held on August 26th. Rowan Fleury, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Recent rains have crested the Wheaton River in the Yukon. The water washed down a portion of Annie Lake Road last week and forced the closure of a fairly new bridge that spans the waterway. The CBC's Virginie Ann met with some of the residents that live nearby.
That whole side was flooded. It's totally out of control. You can't control it. It just happens. But nobody anticipated the rain coming.
Hans Coleridge and his wife Laurie Green have been living right here by the Wheaton River for several decades. The couple says that they have seen the water's levels getting higher and higher, and they believe it's because it's been raining more.
We had rain that are torrential downpours for 3 days in a row. It was tropical rainstorms, so thunder showers where the whole sky opens up, and the river was dropping as it should have been for the time of the year. And then all of a sudden it was higher than, this is only the third time I've seen it this high ever since in the whole time I've lived here.
More rain is in part what has been changing in the Yukon due to climate change, according to Benoit Turcotte, a hydrologist. He says some floods are now caused almost entirely by rain in the summer rather than by snowmelt. Sheila Alexandrovich, who also lives by the Wheaton River, says she's used to flooding in spring, but now it's less predictable.
You get storms that are so huge that you will flood in July, or you'll flood in August, or you'll flood in September. The first 2 days of rain we had went into the ground because it was so dry. So sometimes the ground will absorb it, but once the ground is saturated, if you get a big storm, like now, it's still pretty saturated. So if we get big storms now, we could come right over the banks again. I don't know how you prepare.
With more rain expected in the coming days, where does that leave the Wheaton River Bridge and the properties nearby? The government says it's not expecting the bridge to collapse, but it doesn't have a timeline for when it will fully reopen the road that was washed out. Meanwhile, the three residents say that even with flooding, they intend to stay there, close to nature. Virginie Anne, CBC News, Mount Lorne.
Inuit youth from across Canada are in Rankin Inlet this week for the 2024 National Inuit Youth Summit. Participants will discuss themes like language and culture and mental health. They'll also learn leadership skills, build cultural connections, and set priorities for the National Inuit Youth Council.
I want to say to other Inuit youth, please participate in events like this as much as you can. Use your voices, as we are the future leaders and carriers of our culture. It's so important that we advocate to have a healthy future and strong connections, and just have fun together at the same time.
The National Inuit Youth Conference kicked off on July 29th, and youth will meet until this Friday. Now let's take a look at the weather. What an absolute legend. That was 81-year-old Mary Igalaaq taking part in a recent Inuit wrestling event in Igalaaq. People of all ages came out to try the sport, and judging from the pictures, everyone had a really good time, and I cannot believe Mary is out there performing like that. It's just incredible. That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
I did not know what my future would look like.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I was so excited when they said I got to do an interview with you.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.